finally did it! You defeat the Titan. You were able to slay off the promised consort Radahn, and now you're presented with a new choice. Which reward should you choose for your well-deserved effort? Well, in this video I'm going to try to do my best as to explain to you what is it that you are going to get. What should you take? A little bit of a better informed decision on what is better, what I consider to be better, and so on and so forth. So first and foremost, we have the two colossal swords of Radahn. One thing to note, one thing to have in mind is that they are the very same thing. They are going to be distinguished by that little name that you have right there. It's the Lord Greatsword of Radahn, and then you have the Greatsword of Radahn Light. It is very important to note that both of them don't necessarily need to be, you don't need to have one in each hand. They are all going to be, both of them are going to have dual wield. They are going to be dual wielded colossal swords. They have huge AR, but you don't need to have them like one in each hand. Just get one, and they are dual wielded natively by using the input for dual wielding or two-handing a weapon. Now the gameplay that you'll see in the background, I will have a title for when you're seeing either the Light Greatsword or the Lord Greatsword, so that you don't confuse yourself whenever you're choosing on which one do you want to have. And right out of the bat, my advice is that you immediately choose the Lord Greatsword, the Lord Colossal Sword, because the other one is kinda useless. That's what baffles me with From Software, like the balancing that they have in this game. It's like all over the place, like it's really messy. The clear choice right here, it's the Lord Greatsword of Radahn. What it does, let's first and foremost, they do the same thing. They have the same physical damage, they have the same magic damage, they have the same moveset, they have the same style. Nothing about them change. At level 10, both of them have C scaling in strength, C scaling in dexterity, and D scaling on intelligence. So what's the difference then? Well, the Ash of War. The Greatsword of Radahn, Lord, is going to have this Ash of War, the promised consorts. Imbue the two Greatswords with the light of Miquella, then deliver a slashing attack accompanied by columns of light. Additional input allows for two follow-up attacks, and that is what it does. It's like a combo that it has with real nice damage. It has nice hyper armor, and after each input there's these pillars of light that are very annoying when you're fighting Radahn on itself, that they deal like some kind of a tickle damage. You can scale, but we'll talk about them just briefly in a little while. But the thing is that this has follow-up. It's very FP costly, yes, because at the end of the day, once you manage to complete the combo, it's going to be for a total of 60 FP. The damage, it's decent. Like, there's better Ashes of War out there, but this is decent. It deals decent stagger damage. The poise damage is not really that amazing, and it does have hyper armor, so it's very difficult for the enemy to get you out of the animation. So once you start dancing, it's very difficult for the enemy to stop you, and it deals tremendous amounts of damage. The damage of the Ash of War is going to scale natively out of strength and dexterity. The beams of light, they are not holy damage, they are magic damage, and they scale out of intelligence. However, the intelligence scaling on this thing is just nearly non-existent. It doesn't scale very well with intelligence. It does have somewhat of high magic damage, but I don't advise for you to use this weapon as a mage, because it's just going to, the holy beams are just going to tickle. So then let's talk about the Greatsword of Radahn, the light version. The Ash of War assumes a luminous form and leaps forward to deliver a downward slash at the speed of light. This attack will be followed up by an additional light attack, charged to increase power of the skill and number of follow-up attacks. So essentially, what it does is that you charge the attack. This can be charged and it can be increased damage by the Godfrey icon, but then again, the damage portion of the Ash of War is also divided. The one attack, the physical attack, once you plunge into the ground, that is going to scale out of strength and dexterity. And the extra beams that you have out there, they are going to scale out of intelligence. So if you want to increase the damage of those things, you should build the weapon towards intelligence. What's the issue with this? That they just tickle the enemy. They do barely any damage, and just charging the weapon. Yes, it has a little bit more follow light attacks inputs right there. Well, not inputs, but it just adds a little bit more. And you might say that it actually could function well with weak enemies that would take the whole damage. But no, like, they barely do anything. They don't deal damage at all, and more often than not, for a very, very heavy cost on FP, because it costs like 32 points of FP, you are going to be dealing more often than not 1.5k damage, which is just nothing, like quite literally nothing. A basic regular attack from a well-buffed weapon can deal more damage than this Ash of War that is just going to cost the entirety of your FP right there. So I would say that without a doubt, the light Greatsword of Radahn, it's just utter trash, unusable, and I wouldn't advise for anyone to take that one. The other one, the Lord Greatsword, is actually kind of nice. It deals decent amount of damage. It has hyper armor. It is very costly on FP, but the damage, like I said, it's just going to be amazing. If you really are looking forward to making the Greatswords of Radahn, then might as well just take the Lord option, because the light is just useless, and it's the cost of FP. You're going to be wasting it. But we also have a different choice. We could, for example, take the light of Miquella. This is going to necessarily need for you to have 72 faith, so you can't pair them up. You can have like the light of Miquella and the Radahn swords on the same builds. But let's talk about this. Annihilates foes with a pillar of light. I'm not entirely sure how to feel about this spell. This could very well be the best, crappiest spell in the entirety of the game. You see, it has cool things going on for it. So for example, it's an insta cast. The thing is that this spell is going to keep you into this infinite animation where you're always going to get staggered, because you're never going to be able to finish up the animation, because you're always going to get punched in the face while you're casting the spell. The good thing about it, which is weird, is that it's an insta cast. So you cast it, and then you enter into this infinite lethargy forever for the enemy to wait for the enemy to counterattack and to attack you. But the spell, regardless of the damage that they deal to you or the stagger that they deal to you, the spell is still going to proc. It also has a delay, a light of Miquella, that can be increased, the damage of it, by using the circlet of Miquella. The damage, the real damage increase that you're going to get from the circlet of Miquella is going to be the second proc of the spell, which more often than not, the enemy is going to be moving away from that at the end of the day. So yeah, it's more often than not going to proc that often onto the enemy on itself. It's highly costing on FP, like you can cast this thing twice or maybe 3 times if you're lucky enough, if you actually did invest quite a bit of mind, if you have the spare points to place into mines. But more often than not, it's just going to be like 1 cast or 2. Holy damage is one of the worst types of damage in the game. Most of the enemies in this game are going to be resistant to holy damage. That includes the final boss of the game, and also that includes the final boss of the DLC. Range, it has amazing range. The range on this thing, it's just monstrous. So it's a cool spell that I'm not sure, dude. Like, the damage on itself that it's going to deal, provided at the end that you actually do hit the entirety of the spell to the enemy and they are not resistant to holy damage, it's going to be around 2 to 3k, which is not that bad, mind you, but more often than not, it's just going to be 1k for wasting all of your EP on that single cast and getting punched in the face in the process as well. So yeah, you have that. Let's remember as well that with, for example, a fully hardcap 80 faith cleric, this is just a force to be reckoned with, because yes, you might say that there's many holy based enemies in the game, holy resistant enemies in the game, and yes, of course, that is indeed true. But mind you that you can change your spell slots at any given time, and you can change your seal at any given time. So if you're fighting against something that it's wholly resistant, then you might as well just use, for example, a dragon incantation that deals tremendous amounts of damage, and as a matter of fact is one of the highest damaging builds in the entirety of the game, because of spells like the lightning spear, the ancient dragon's lightning spear, ancient dragon's lightning stride, lance exclave, fortisax lightning spear, the frozen Lightning Spear. All of them are just excellent options that you can use to deal damage to holy base resistant enemies, and you don't have to change the build at all. You just have to change the seal and the spell incantations at the bonfire. Anyways, if you like the content, it's looking very super appreciated. And also, you today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, have a beautiful day. I'll be seeing you beautiful people in the next one. Goodbye.